Okay, we are
There we are.
live. There was a moment there where it was like, is it live? Is it live? Good evening, good morning, good day. Welcome from wherever you are watching this from. I am delighted to bring you today's confession show with the amazing Mr. Leon Streete. Now, this guy, his time is like rocking horse doo-doo to get hold of because he's so freaking amazingly busy. Leon, you're right in the middle of interviewing loads of people, you're doing a virtual summit, you're delivering courses, you're organizing online events. Like, you have a crazier life than me, and I thought that was quite challenging to find a person that was like that.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that today. And just to add a bit more, I was also doing some maths and English homeschooling with my daughter today, who's 7. So there's a load of different things thrown in today. But it's all good. It all makes for the life that I wanted, and I'm creating it.
It does. But let's talk about how you got that life that you wanted, because it wasn't always this way, was it? Tell us about some of the things that happened to you on your journey to building the brand that you now have out there in the world.
Just so I'm clear, how long is this interview today, Sammy? Just because I
45
don't want it. Okay, good. Because I'm thinking like, right, I'm gonna need about 5 hours.
How are you gonna fit it all in?
So I can take you back to a couple of pivotal, I guess points in my career as a business owner. Perhaps the first one being in around 2010 when my first business failed and I had to liquidate the company, as I'd been trading insolvent for about 18 months. But because I've been cash flowing it and adding debt into it, credit cards and a few other things to keep it alive at the time, I didn't even know I was trading insolvent because I was just like treading water. So I guess that was probably one of the big wake-up calls for me. And in 2010 I was 30, so it was the start of a midlife crisis, I guess.
just to highlight on that bit before you move on, because I think there's a lot of small business owners, especially now in times such as this, where trading insolvently, is a necessity for many businesses at the moment. Lots of people are getting the small business loans just to survive, let alone thrive. What would you say is the the signs of trading insolvently? Is it like you say?
I can tell you. The first thing is if you're using credit to basically subsidize the fact that you're not selling anything and that the cash flow isn't coming in, or perhaps you are selling, which is what happened to me, but people aren't paying their invoices, which could also be happening right now as well. And so that happened.
So it's no fault of your own. You're actually making the sales, you're sending the invoices out, and then people aren't paying them.
I remember at the time I had, the cash gap wasn't like super huge, and I had about £9,000 that was due in on invoices at the time, but it broke the bank because I'd used up all my other resources, and so there was just nowhere else to turn. There was literally nothing else, and I had payroll, had my own payroll as well to make sure that I'm needing to pay what I needed to do at home. And I didn't have any cash, like it was all gone. And I guess in terms of the signs, it's knowing that you're putting your emotions first rather than the logic. And it's easier said than done when it's your first baby. And I use the term baby for, your first business, because that's what your first one is. When you've gone through a few things, and we'll get into that, you start to realize that actually it's just the thing that allows you to make money. And the more difference you can make in the world is the key. It isn't the baby itself. And I guess at the time that was my lesson, as well as the other things that came with it. But definitely the signs are, if people aren't paying you and you're kind of leveraged with your credit or just your cash flow, you're using things to get by. And at the time I was telling myself, look, I'll take the risk because I know that I can keep selling more. And there's a point where you keep telling yourself the same BS. I don't know whether to be polite or just me, but I'll be polite for now, Sammy. But
this is my show. It's all right. We do swearing.
Okay,
You're all
okay,
right.
Good. I just wanted to, keep it clean. It's 5 p.m. We ain't past the watershed yet. But it was kind of like, at the time I was feeding myself my own bullshit, and it's quite easy to do because you start to build up the habit of believing it. and you
Do you
believe
think
it.
there
And
were some beliefs in there as well that were kind of
yeah,
feeding that as well, like perfectionist
100%.
beliefs, fear of failure, all of
Perfectionist,
those
fear of
things?
failing, fear of asking for my freaking money that was owed for me, and not
Oh,
wanted
shit.
to offend people because I didn't want to put them off or piss them off because they owed me money. And like, these are the
That's a
lessons.
fine
And
balance, isn't it? That just on its own is, well, if I
but
pursue them and I push them, then they won't
yeah,
pay me anything.
exactly. And then I'm gonna have to chase and all this stuff. But what I realized is part of it was, you know, and as you get into, as we've spoken before and I've interviewed, you start to understand a lot of the things that you learn psychologically as a child up until the ages of like 7 and up to 15. Those are the traits that you bring into your business. And unfortunately, some of those things were bad habits. Like, you know, in the household I grew up, it was kind of like, wait until you're asked or wait until you're given. And so therefore what that demonstrated or played out in when it came to kind of collecting money, it was like, let me wait a bit longer because then they'll give it me. But I didn't realize it was unconsciously, you know, happening. I was aware I needed the money and they owed me the money, but my unconscious behavior, the thing that kind of drives all of us to the point where we're doing on autopilot, I just couldn't get beyond at the time. And there were a few things that I put in place at the time to allow me to come out of it in a better kind of outlook on life and where I could go. Because at the time it felt like I didn't have anywhere to turn, I didn't have any options, and
Such a lonely.
the world was caving in on me.
I've got my
I
own
love the
furry
fact that I can
microphone.
laugh about it now as well.
Thank you, Molly. We're not on the show today. So I mean, there's this whole thing that goes on. I remember it was coming up to Christmas. It must have been about 2011. I had 13 staff, and I was driving down the M25 from Leeds to get home. I was almost home at that point, home as in where I grew up, and I remember the song on the radio, "Driving Home for Christmas." That Chris Rea, is it? It's one of you can tell me in the comments. Like, I think that's right. And I remember feeling sick and overwhelmed and anxious, and that horrible feeling that you get in your stomach, because we'd brought an accountant into our business who we didn't realize was really archaic in his way of working. We, in our infinite wisdom at that point, it was our baby. This was business number 5, you know, this wasn't our first rodeo, and we still were getting caught out. So we hire this accountant in-house, right? So we're employing this guy. He comes in, he works with us for about 4 months, and just before Christmas we get this letter saying that we owe something. I think it was something like £28,000 in VAT, and an extra however much similar to that, 40,000 in corporation tax or something like that. And I'm looking at this number, I'm driving home for Christmas literally with this feeling in my stomach, like I can't even pay my staff. If I pay that, do I lose my company? And I remember that feeling. I remember my dad calling me to find out how far away I was, and I just had a lump in my throat that I was choking on. And he phoned me, and of course, like your parents just know, don't they, if there's something wrong. I just blurt all this out to him. I'm thinking, if I can get all this out before I get there, then it's done, and you know, hopefully I can enjoy Christmas. But I just remember my dad saying to me, "Sammy, I've got some savings. I can help. Just what do you need?" And I was like, "Dad, I think this is something that I've got to do on my." Oh my gosh, I'm getting a bit emotional. This is something that I've got to do on my own. And I worked my absolute arse off, and I did it on my own. But now I realize I didn't have to do it on my own. And we go through these things on our own, just dealing with it. And we're absorbing this massive amount of pressure, fear of failure, all that stuff. It all comes up for us. And if you're watching this now or listening to it on the replay or via the podcast, I really pray that you are not feeling that way, first of all. And if you are, please reach out, because I would never want anybody to feel the way I did when I felt so isolated and alone. And I had a business partner as well who I could have talked to, but I was trying not to stress him out. So I think the higher we go up in our business and the business making decisions that we have, the harder it becomes to ask for help sometimes. It sounds like you were in that kind of spiral as well.
100%, you know. And I will actually say it's only probably in the past year that I got to the bottom, the root of I guess my ego and what was playing out back then 10 years ago. And that's because of me investing in myself and spending time on actually, what is the thing that's driving me to always head towards failure? And I say this with great awareness, guys. And what I mean by that, let me explain, is that your ego, from a kind of human basic principles, is there to protect you. You've got fight, flight, or freeze. Yeah. And your ego is truly there to protect you. But in that, it protects you in a negative way. And what I didn't realize was what was the story I was playing out because of what I thought the world was meant to be from those younger ages, 0 to 7, which has now become my ego's program of running, no matter what I do, whether it's business life, being a father, a parent, partner, all those different things, that is actually leading me to failure, when actually what I do want is to lead me towards my vision. It's funny being a human, the fact that we can have this conversation and then still see, I'm actually talking about me in all of this. But the thing is, when you're in all of that, you don't see the wood for the trees, and it can be a tough place. And I like the fact that you said, people are going through those emotions, those experiences, and especially now, a lot of businesses are going out of business right now, that you reach out, because you know what, I will add this part, Sammy, because I'm a bit more ruthless in that sense. You got to feel that pain, because only up until
some
you
lessons
feel that,
you've got to learn.
Yeah, and the fact that you said, Dad, I've got to do this. This one's on me. I can see why you was emotional at that point, because it's really powerful stuff that I guess the emotions that we put into those experiences and those moments. But the reality is that they truly are the making of who we are, because there were so many thoughts I was going through as he was kind of articulating it back. But here's one thing I was just thinking, just for a brief second. Imagine if that part of business was taught in schools, the psychological effect of really hitting failure. I was just thinking, fuck me. Like literally, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody does teach that, because I know at that moment in my life, I felt like an absolute failure beyond anything I could articulate.
I totally resonate.
Crazy,
I think that was the biggest thing. Like, my eyes can't stop leaking as we're having this conversation. I was just like, my eyes are wet.
Sorry, I didn't expect it to turn this way.
Coming on here making a girl cry. I remember that feeling more so than anything, of feeling like I'd let my family down.
Yes.
And this was my parents' family. So, the crazy thing is, Leon, that 2 years ago at Christmas, we were at a point where we were like, fuck, we've made all these sales. Where's the money? Like, I'm working my ass off. What's going on? And because that accountant had basically messed up all of the accounts on that business, which we ended up owing all this money in corporation tax and everything. Get a good accountant. All right, that was lesson from that business. But in this business, I'd just been focused so much on sales that I didn't have anybody that was managing credit control. So I had all these payments that were coming in, and I was seeing on Stripe and PayPal, I'm thinking everything's all right. And then I go to access the bank and I'm seeing, hang on a minute, there should be a few zeros in there. And there's not. And I remember breaking down in the kitchen. Again, it must have been about 6 days before Christmas. And I had my head in my hands, and I remember Greg coming up to me and saying, whatever's the matter. And my husband is 6'4". He towers over me. I'm like a midget with him. And he puts his hands on my shoulders, which isn't very difficult for him to do at that point. And he just looks at me and he said, Sammy, do you realize how much you do? Do you realize how much we've invested in the business this month? Do you realize what we've done and what we've achieved? This is just a small blip, and I just had all those feelings came back up for me. Call with my dad, and that was the thing. But this time I had my own family, not just my family, kind of my mum and dad family. This was I felt like I was letting my husband and my kids down as well by this point. And that pressure that happens. I don't know if any of you are listening to this and you're thinking, oh God, I resonate, or someone that's going through it. Please don't try and go through that alone. We've walked that path.
You know what? Just as you're saying that, the biggest thing I guess that kind of helped me out of it was knowing that I had options because I was speaking to people. And look, I'll be straight up and say this: for guys, it's not as easy. We're not like the most social beings or animals when it comes to telling people, or even talking to people, or even then sharing the very things that we're ashamed of, or that we really don't want to reveal. And that, unfortunately, you know what? I at that point in time, I was Superman, but Superman who was asking for help. Yeah.
Right.
So,
and
it
you
really
mentioned ego as well. It's in fact, one of our Brand Builders Club members, Mary Gregorys, she's written an amazing book. I wrote my review yesterday, I think. I think Greg's stolen it, actually. I haven't even got it here. It lasted in here in the living room for about 10 minutes, and then Greg stole it. And it's called Ego, Get Over Yourself and Lead. And I wish that I'd read that book way back. I just highly advise those of you watching or listening, go onto Amazon, type in Ego, Get Over Yourself and Lead by Mary Gregory. That the whole ego thing, it doesn't just get in the way of our own personal things. It stops us growing. All around us, doesn't it?
As I said, your ego, but believe it or not, because until you do the work on this and on yourself, its goal is to lead you to failure. And a lot of people wouldn't believe that, but that's what it is. You can only accelerate towards your vision. Yeah, when you're led by your vision, led by the higher of what it is that you want to achieve. And it's not something you kind of pick up as a business owner. There's no kind of like ego 101, and that's where you start in business before you really start, whether you're doing branding, marketing, all of the exciting stuff people really want to get into. But actually what happens is you set this business up usually with a great idea that you can help somebody, but you bring all that baggage with you and you don't even know it's on your back.
Right. That's the thing, isn't it? You carry half a glass of water, like this bottle. I could carry this and it'd be fine, but you carry that for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. Becomes an issue. Now let's talk about because we're going down a real thread of ego, and I love the whole concept of I love psychology. So how many of you love psychology, how we all think? I think it's so interesting. But you are one of the best marketers that I have ever met, and your approach to marketing is really about removing that ego and projecting who we really are. So tell us more about that, Leon, because I'd love to hear more about the marketing strategies you work on and what's your theory behind the way you do it.
It's a great question, by the way. As I was asked the question, I was like, well, what actually did I do? You know what it was? It all started from that pivotal point, because out of it, I moved from a place of thinking that I would figure it out, or I know it all. Yeah, because that's what I was like. Because up until that point in my career, everything kind of flowed seamlessly, fell into place, and it was just like, ask Leon what needs to be done, or somebody approached me, I get it done. At that point, I got to a place where I couldn't answer myself and I couldn't help myself. And I guess out of it, what I realized is that, and you hear this quite often, but not many of us practice it. And I'm going to throw myself into that mix, because it took me to understand that I wasn't practicing it, to realize is that a lot of us are too proud to ask for help, are too proud to keep learning, and are too proud to admit when we don't know something to the level that other people believe we do. And, as an expert, that's pretty hard to kind of admit to yourself and others, to get to that place of honesty and just be authentic about it. Like, look, I truly don't know that part, but I know this enough. But whoa, what I realized is I've been missing a big piece of the pie. And I think it was me kind of opening up to myself. And at the time, it added pressure to my marriage, and that kind of reared its head. And at the time, it was a big thing, and it got to the point where the business was the reason for our financial struggle, and who was the one who was in business? Me. So a lot of things were my fault at the time. So not only was I challenged by the business, I didn't have within the home an outlet, because I made
it's going to be like a pressure cooker, isn't it? It's like Big Brother, this goldfish bowl.
Yeah, and so for like 4 years, I kind of didn't really push. I didn't really have an outlet. And that's what forced me into like, and I say the 4 years because that was the time where when I look back, I realized it was a depression. It was me kind of like staying like to the limit of a glass ceiling. And out of it, I came out because there was still that burning desire, like, no, there's much more I want to go for. Like, don't worry about the fact that that business failed and you had to make some of your great team redundant and go through all of that,
I mean, that's
process
just
as well.
awful, isn't it? The thought of letting other people
Yeah,
down.
because it's like you lump all of their family and all their stuff onto
Yeah,
your shoulders, again,
yeah.
back to the Superman. And,
Mm.
that's where it came from. So kind of let me bring you back up to speed then. So where I am right now, in that period, I guess from 6 years ago, what I realized is that, hey, Leon, there's much more to you. There's much more to learn. There's still things that people are coming to you for, and you do have the answers. But the one thing that I was really aggressive with was, let me find the answers and let me not just admit that, I do know the answers when I don't. It's like, just keep researching, keep finding it, and putting all the jigsaw pieces together, in whatever way you believe them to be. And so I didn't get too precious because I was a massive perfectionist, Sammy, like you can't even imagine.
Come on, you secret, you closet perfectionist, you know
Yeah.
who you are. Give us a hashtag perfectionist if that's you.
And it truly was me.
For sure.
And
I am.
And so I dropped it, and I got to the point where I think it was like the 80-20 principle. I was reading the book, but the one on sales by Perry Marshall, that was it. And I was like, this
Very
is
famous
interesting.
book.
Yeah, 80% of that's all you need from 20% of what you do. And I was like, wow. So it isn't about the 100, but it was just like the catalyst. Like it wasn't that I wasn't aware that you didn't have to be perfect on everything, but my kind of my persona around my approach. So anyway, then I realized, like, right, so what's going on with me then? What's going on with what I do in marketing? Because marketing is my thing. That's why I call myself a visionary marketing coach. And then what happened was, about 3 years ago, I thought, I'm hitting a certain level of success, but I know there's something I'm missing. And I also know the common denominator is me. And if I'm the common denominator, what is it about me? Like, it's not the education, it's not the skills, because you can put me against 7-figure, 8-figure, I'd even say a 9-figure marketer, and I understand and know what they're doing, but there's something else at work here. And it's all to do with me psychologically, my ego, the way that I approach things, the way that unconsciously I'm blocking myself. And then I thought, bang, how is that happening for my clients? How is that happening for my target audience, for my clients' audiences? And that's where the kind of penny dropped. And it was at that moment. So like I'm saying, 3 years ago, before that, I had different pieces of the jigsaw, but 3 years ago, they fit together. And that's where it kind of stemmed out of. And it was doing the work on me. People say, you got to do the work on yourself. But like literally, that's what it was. It was that was the key step. And so then I started to realize, like, psychology, what is it about me that I've always been able to articulate and take a complex thing, theory, strategy, or tactic, and explain it simply to somebody who they just run a business and all they want to know is, how do I get more clients? And I'm like, that's my thing. But now I need to be able to take the reasons why somebody's going to buy from you and share that with my clients so they can get more clients. And it was that was the moment, Sammy.
I think one of the things that we do as business owners is we always go outside of ourselves. We think, this isn't working, so I've got to get training on this, or what expert do I need? And we go and we're constantly kind of adding another layer of all these things that we think, if we learn a new thing, then that's going to help. But actually, when we find the greatest growth, it's when we go inside rather than outside. And you clearly got so much from that process that all of your clients globally are now benefiting from just that one experience.
100%. I mean, even yesterday I was speaking to one of my clients. He's actually one of my biggest case studies. He did $1.47 million in sales in just under 6 months. And I was going over one of his processes because he reached out to me, Leon, I need a bit of help with one of my clients who he also does, I guess, marketing, but he comes from the angle of more creating the right product for your audience, i.e. a proven product. Yeah, that's his angle, that's his kind of thing. And I was going over some of his collateral, you know, the documentation that he shares with his clients, some of the trainings that he takes them through. And I was like, shit me, there's all my stuff. And so it isn't like I'm like super precious about the things that he's taken, because we all take from somewhere. But I was like, you know, that's my work at play there, supporting somebody who is a 7-figure business owner in Chicago, in the USA, not in the UK with me. And, you know, I guess when you start looking at things like that, that's where you understand that, yes, what you have or what I've achieved in that is great. And it also shows that globally, just like you say, that, yeah, people are using the strategies that I share with them. And I guess the biggest thing, like I ran a recent group coaching program, and I was interviewing some of the students who run that program, the business owners, after the program had finished, to get feedback, get testimonials and all that types of stuff. And I was asking, like, what's the one main thing that you took away from it? And I was surprised, because I thought it's got to be something to do with marketing again, you know, because that's what. And every one of them said, Leon, it was the clear steps to getting the stuff done that I needed and focus. And I was like, wow. And you know, I said to you a moment ago, what I'm able to do is simplify things. And that was it. They said it was just easy to follow, which is something that I usually find a complicated process. And I was like, there you go.
That's brilliant. I mean, when we're already under pressure to do marketing, I mean, there's so many things that could be doing. I mean, let's talk marketing. Like, how many of you get overwhelmed when you think about how much there is to do with marketing? Like, you've got to, most of us, you know, I mean, even myself, I have no staff. All of my team, they're all outsourced. I don't have anybody else in the business. It's only myself. You know, and we run quite big organizations. And so, you know, even for someone like myself, when I think, oh gosh, you know, you're developing courses and programs, you're creating content, you're blogging, you're now creating videos, so you're vlogging, you're you know, TikTok comes along. Oh shit, should I be doing TikTok? And then we've got this and we've got this, and oh shit, better send those invoices. And oh, like, you know, how do I, you know, all the stuff that we talked about at the beginning of the interview. You know, it's one thing if you've got a company doing that, but it's another thing if you're on your own trying to do it all. What would your like number one piece of advice be around creating a marketing strategy that's really going to work?
It's a great question. So my number one thing is if I'm going to create a marketing strategy, and I'm in your shoes, business owners right now, and you want to get clients, is you have to use what I just said, the focus. And the focus part comes into play, especially with where do your audience hang out? Yeah. And a lot of people say, as an example, oh, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I would simply say to you is just pick one, because in this day and age, there's enough users on each one of those platforms to have at least £100,000 on there for you to gain from potential people who could be your clients. Yeah. But what happens is people want to jump onto all these different platforms. They're trying to produce lots of content. And what happens is rather than attracting people because you just show up regularly, consistently on one of those platforms with the right message, even like what Sammy does with these interviews every day, 5 p.m. Is it Monday to Friday and Monday to Sunday? There you go. And, you know, delivering content consistently, you know, I can use the metaphor of an athlete. You know, it's not usually that an athlete is born with, as some people would say, a God-given talent. It's because if you look behind the scenes, you'll see the consistency of them training on the track, in the sun, in the rain, in the snow, turning up to the meets that nobody turns up to, no audience. They go win that race. They qualify for the next race. They get to the regionals, the nationals, internationals. And that's how you've got to look at yourself as a business owner. So for me, it's the focus and consistency of you just showing up on one of those platforms. And don't get me wrong, there are going to be different things that pop up, like you say, Sammy, TikToks and so on and so forth. I've got one client right now, driving school, a huge case study for me, helped them to create 3 income streams, multi-6-figure business, fully leveraged. We've just done one JV deal with a partner that I guess just for one of those income streams is probably going to reach 7 figures in the next 12 months. And it's such a great deal. And I'm in for 10%. So I'm happy about that too. And kind of leverage your skills and your value.
Absolutely.
But the point I'm getting to is, you know, amongst everything, he's just jumped onto TikTok. He's got a few videos where they've got 250,000 views out of nowhere. And he's done it just to kind of see if there is opportunity there. Yeah. But in that opportunity, he hasn't dropped the ball on his number one place where he picks up his key traffic, which is YouTube. Yeah, he shows up twice a week with videos on YouTube. So no matter what's going on around you, if you do want to test some stuff, just don't drop the ball on the one place where you are going to show up. And some of the times, most of the times, and quite often, you're going to show up and people won't be visibly watching you. So you probably won't see likes, you won't see comments, you may not see many views, but trust me,
yeah,
people are watching you. And I have so many great clients who never liked my stuff, never commented on my stuff, never shared my stuff, but they got on the phone and bought from me.
That's so true. I know that there's so many people that I've interviewed over the course of the last 6 months. You know, we've gone live pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And I remember Simon Hartley about 4 months ago on the show, he said, you will only ever know of around, I think it was 1% of the people who actually like show up, who what was it? You will only ever know of 1% of the impact that you ever make. So you're making impact constantly. I remember being at an event a few years ago, and I snuck in because the event had already started. So I snuck in and I saw this seat and I went and sat down. And this guy whose name was Guy actually, and I'd known him for years, but I hadn't seen him for years. And he just leaned over. He went like this, sort of thing, and he went, "That video you did on peer groups, brave." And then he just sat. That was all he said. And I was just internally in this loop going, you've never liked a video, you've never commented on a video, I don't see you ever looking at my stuff. How did you see that? Apparently he watched everything. Hi Guy, if you're still watching.
Keep watching.
But you just never know. You just never know. And you know, the amount of people that say, oh, I check in on your show, and I have no idea. I have no idea they're doing it. They can't always be there when you're live. But especially when you do something like this with StreamYard, or you go live on Facebook, you have no idea of the reach that you're having. But just keep doing it and be consistent in how you do it as well. Leon, you know, you've gone through so much to get where you are. You've had good things, you've had bad things happen. You know, we've talked about how you lost your first business. I can totally resonate with the feelings of that. What would you say would be your number one confession? I mean, this is the confession show after all. So number one confession that you don't talk about very often, but that you would just say to those people that are watching or listening, you know, no, I know you have to go through some things. There are some lessons that we have to learn in life. But if there were one lesson that you know is completely like, you don't have to learn that thing, what would it be? What's one confession you don't talk about very often that you would love us to learn through you so we don't learn it ourselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I guess the number one confession is, and I'm searching here, Sammy. This is really like got me stuck in my tracks, because the biggest thing for me is being totally honest with yourself, because I wasn't. And it probably doesn't sound like, oh, that's so amazingly, you know, like revealing. But I'll tell you, and I'll dig deeper with it, because there's many connotations, and I'll be straight up with you. Because I wasn't honest with myself, I wasn't the kind of, let's say, I wasn't the kind of business owner I needed to be when my business failed. I wasn't the kind of husband I needed to be when that marriage failed. I wasn't the kind of father I needed to be at that point in time. And I'm not saying that I was terrible or anything. I wasn't the kind of father that I believed I should be. That's the point I'm getting to. So my biggest confession is, if you can truly be honest with yourself and not care what other people think, and do things because of what you represent, because you love people, because you love yourself, and you're not worried about protecting yourself in a way that, oh, what if that happens and I won't be, you know, like I won't reveal everything, or I won't do X, Y, and Z. That's my biggest confession, because like, as I said to you 3 years ago, when I started really doing the work on me, that's when everything just fell into place. I mean, I can't explain it, because when I used to see people who kind of were there, and I would look into them and look up to them and look at how the hell did they get there, there was so many, I guess there's a story we all create, coming back to psychology. You know, each of us have our own filter on the world and how we see, you know, friends, family, customers, your kids, your parents, like, because in their world, they don't exist the way that you see them. Yeah. And for me, when I was just at that place of honesty with, right, Leon, you need to start dropping these things. You need to start dropping the assumptions. You need to start dropping that bravado or the kind of expert, you know, I need to make sure people think I'm the expert, even if I don't know the thing. I just stopped it. And I guess that's the biggest thing that I can share with business owners, because when you step into that space, and I don't need to tell you, Sammy, because I know you've been there, but anybody else watching this, and, you know, let's say your business is at $50,000 or pounds, and you're racking your brains why you can't step up and hit 6 figures, multi, and go beyond that to 7 and so on. Yeah, it's you. It's nobody else, but only you can admit that and confess to it. Yeah. And it's only at that point will you find your answer and the thing you're looking for, because it's not external, as you said, Sammy, it's all internal. But it takes a real level of honesty that you probably have never experienced before. And I can tell you that that's what it was for me. And having gone through those experiences and like realized, as I looked at myself in that moment back then, like, oh, fuck, Leon, the world as you thought you were living is not that world. And there's so much more for you to give, so much more for you to gain. And that was my moment.
I think there's always another level that we can go to. Thank you for your vulnerability and for sharing that so honestly. You know, that's actually a lesson that we haven't had shared on the Confessions show yet. So thank you for bringing your whole self to this conversation. Now, I know that you have reached out to other entrepreneurs like you who are prepared to bring their whole self to the business, to create something very special, of which I'm very proud to be a part of it. Tell us about this super special announcement that you're making.
So, and I've got to share something with you, that we've changed the date by 1 week, and you know, we just had to. So, but anyway, so I put in place during this social lockdown and, you know, everything that's going on, I've taken my events online, and I created something called the Online Business Summit. You can get to it on www.obsummit.com and get on the notification list. But our next event comes on the 16th and 17th of July. So this month, we're on the first day of July. And I put it together because I wanted to create a space online, because everything was closed. So obviously none of us could do any in-person events and workshops like both of us do, Sammy. So I thought, let me bring experts online. And this is going to be my third one. We've got great speakers. I've interviewed each one, and I've picked specific questions, and I've dived into some of the answers, like I did with Sammy. So like,
God, I tell you, he was a hard taskmaster. Fucking hell, did he go deep? Jesus.
Yeah, you know, we had some good stuff.
Questions. He said, do you want me to send you some questions before? And I said, no, we'll free flow. And he's asking me these questions that were really deep and really searching. I was like, wow, I don't think I've been here before. I haven't revisited that for a long time.
Right. Not only the deep, but in the end, I think the interview finished with Sammy being something like Shizzle, Sammy, Snoop Dogg, whatever. I can't even remember what name I gave you, but I just know Sammy was
coming out with it.
Yeah, alliteration of this letter and that, and honestly, it was really cool. And that's what I wanted to bring to my audiences, and I did that in the first two. But this one, I've kind of opened the doors, and I think we have about 14 experts who are part of the online summit. It's going to be live, hosted by me throughout the 2 days on the 16th and 17th. The interviews are recorded, although I'm going to be giving some live trainings as part of those 2 days. But honestly, the content's it's awesome, and I say that because the way that I've gone about this is to ask those deeper questions and really just pick on some of the, I guess, my experiences. Back in 2015, I won the Best UK Business Podcast Award. And again, I'm going to come back to the point I said to you earlier. I won that because of consistency. I spent 12 months, 3 months before the launch of the podcast, and then 9 months solid. And within 9 months of being live, we won that against some big podcasts in the UK. And so for me, that's what I'm bringing on this online business summit. It's really bringing more of my guests. They all have different levels of expertise, different areas of expertise. Like Sammy went in on branding. We were talking about the book behind her and how that all came together, and some real juicy
product placement.
Yeah, exactly. Some real cool things. See, I haven't got my table set up, but look, here's my book as well. Wally's book clients. But back to the point, online business summit. It's bringing a lot of value. And I know everybody watching this, if you want a perspective on perhaps some strategies and tactics that you haven't considered before, you will find that in all of the interviews, guaranteed.
Yeah, I found parts of myself. I met parts of myself in that interview that I hadn't met for a long time. So I can't wait to listen back to it. So I think sometimes, well, a lot of the time actually, like we run our Thinkubators every Tuesday. And you give advice to others, and at the same time you're giving the advice to somebody else, you're going, why the fuck aren't I doing that anymore?
Yeah.
You're taking that advice for yourself.
What I just told you, I'm going to implement.
Yeah, brilliant. Guys and girls, make sure you book yourself onto that summit. Is there a price to attend, Leon? Is there?
No, there's no price. The event is free. It's an online summit. Look, I'll be straight up with you, because that's how I am. There's got to be something in it for you to move the needle on the dial. Yeah. So I'm going to give you so much value for free that it's going to be worth your time to show up. And that's why I'm doing it for free. Yes, I could charge for it, but look, you turn up. Yeah. And I guarantee you what you will experience as content will offer you the opportunity to change what you're doing in your life and business. And secondly, there will be some offers there on the day. I have one specific offer, and I'm not going to say any more than that, but that's the only thing where I am going to ask something of the audience, and that's only if you're ready to step up to the next level. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't ask more than that, can you? You're giving loads and loads of free content. And for those that are ready to take it to the next level, it'd be crazy not to say, here's how you do that.
Exactly.
So what I'd love to ask and invite all of you to do now is to please just share this interview out, or just say, hey, I'm going to book myself onto this online business summit. Would love you to come with me. Just put it out on your profile right now. Invite 3 friends. Just, help them to help themselves, because quite often we don't know if somebody's struggling. We started this interview sharing how we both absolutely struggled. No one on the outside would have known. We were pressure cookers, just 100%. Literally cooking inside, and nobody would have known. So be the best friend that you could be and support them just by putting it out there, so it's in their universe, and let them decide if it's something that they want to come to. But just be that trailblazer, be the first person that signs up to it and shares it, so that we can support more people just like us. Because when the pressure's on, we tend to go inside ourselves, but not in a good way, not in the way that we were talking about earlier. We don't go in there for growth. We go in there because it's the safest place to be. And it's absolutely not the safest place to be at all.
The ego pulls us back in and says, hey, I know where to lead you, back to failure. And that's truly what it is. And a thought just ran through my mind as you were saying that. And you know what? I remember I was broke with a Rolex. Yeah. And that thought just came. I was broke wearing a Rolex, and I was like, shit me. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. They say, I always remember, I can't remember who it was. It was either my dad or my grandma that they just said to me, a rule in business is to treat everybody kindly on your way up, because there's always a way down, and you're going to need them.
Exactly. And you know what? 100% agree. And that's why I said to you earlier, I had people to speak to. And to be honest, when you can't see the wood for the trees, and you can't see how you're going to get out of that hole, humans, people, they matter and they count.
Yeah. How can we be of support to you on your journey. If you are feeling any of the things, it's like, I feel like we should put a disclaimer on this show, really. If you've been affected by any of the issues that have been discussed in this program, please reach out. Seriously, email me, sammy@howtobuildabrand.org. If you are going through any shit, do not go through it alone. You don't have to. There are people, as we heard on yesterday's interview with Vishal, one of his key mantras is, people care about you even if they don't show it. So you don't know what's going on for others, and it can be incredibly hard for others outside of us to support us because they just don't know how. And it might feel like they don't care, but it's usually the opposite. They just they don't know how to help, but we know how to help. So ask us, come along to the summit, get the help you need, get some great ideas that you won't have heard of before, or there might be some things that you hear and you might have heard them 50 times, but you haven't taken fucking action on it. So isn't that the time?
Like you said, about the psychology. 100%. I've got some new stuff that I will be sharing. So I'll be delivering 2 specific masterclasses that people will get about exactly how you tap into the psychology and get people to buy from you.
Love it. I'm going to be there. I'll have my bum on one of those seats. Who else is joining me? Come and join me. Come and play. Christina. Hello, Christina. I hope you're going to come and join us. Lawana and Madeline. It'd be great for you to come and join us. We want people all over the world to be positively impacted by the amazing juiciness that's going to be given at this online summit. I know that over the last 3 months, there's been lots of people that have been running online summits. There's been lots of challenges. There's been lots of things that are happening. I don't know. I out of all of the, it can be quite a distraction, can't it? Because there's so many going on. But I must have been on an online summit, interviewed at least once a week for the last 3 months, sometimes 2 or 3 times. I'm on another one this weekend. But I think the key thing is that I don't get involved or play in anything that I don't think is really super important to be at. So, that's my brand is affected by that, and it's brand by association. So the reason why you have this amazing, great man in front of you is because, like me, we've learned a lot of lessons, and we just want to make sure that you can move forward in the best way for you. Simon Ben's in the house. Hey, Simon.
Hey, Simon. Yeah, and Simon, I appreciate you saying that as well, Sammy. Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that because, there are a lot of summits and, go figure, everybody's got to adapt, pivot, change, go online. And to be honest, as human beings, if we can't congregate in person, then we can do it online with the blessings of technology. And I think the key thing in all of this is, people are I believe 99% of people are putting genuinely good content out there, or in the attempt to put content out there that will make a difference, because nobody really wants to be in business doing something without integrity. And I guess with what I'm doing, I've done it because I understand that about people as well. And I've even said to people before, even pay attention to the process, because if you're running something, you want to do it in your industry or your business, pay attention to it, because you'll find the lessons there. The lessons will be in the content, but there's also what's going on around the content. How is something run? What can you take from that? How is the sale done? How are the offers done? How is the connections between the speakers done? And even the interviews and stuff. I remember before I launched my podcast, I started heavily looking at how interviews were being done, and like, how were people connecting to really big business owners, like $1 billion and all. And what I realized is that, Leon, they're having a conversation. Stop overthinking. But it was looking into those things, you know what I mean? And so, I'd love for everybody to attend if you can, the www.obsummit.com. Sammy will be there. Need I say more?
I'll be there. Come join me. Like I'm always learning. You can never know enough, and don't ever think that you're way ahead and I haven't got time for that. It's the things you haven't got time for, the things you should be doing. So Leon, thank you so much. And thank you to Dario Cucci for introducing us. We met
it
on
was actually,
Dario's stage last year when we
Yes,
were
it was.
delivering at his event. We were speaking on his stage. Simon, topic and agenda button on OB Summit.
Yeah, it's on
Not working.
notifications. It will only be live from
Oh.
what are we on Friday? So you register now and you will be notified. So on Friday you'll be able to get the full details. So if you register to notify now to get the notification, everything will be sent to you automatically on Friday.
Perfect. Love it. Absolutely love it. Leon, it's so amazing to play again. I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you for bringing your light, not only to the world, but to us today. And like I say, I know you're busy as anything because you already did 2 interviews before you then jumped on with me.
That's it. Now it's time to do some dinner, look after my daughter. And 8:30 I'll be back on tonight.
The relentless like attitude of consistency, I think, is that's why you're successful, and they're the things that we need to be modeling. So thank you so much for being on today's show, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Look forward to seeing you, and please go and register, and also once you've registered, share it with as many entrepreneurs and business owners as you can. Like we say, you never know who's going through some mental health issues because their business isn't going well, and they're not going to show it. You're not going to see the signs, you're not going to know. But if you can put that link out, then you're giving them a lifeline potentially. So thank you so much. Have an amazing evening. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow for tomorrow's show. Brand Builders Club members, remember that we have an amazing masterclass happening at 7 p.m. tonight with the incredible Jennifer Louise. She's talking about Instagram specifically tonight and really reaching that customer avatar who's your ideal customer. So make sure you're there. It's on the usual Brand Builders Club Zoom link. We'll look forward to seeing you either there or in the show tomorrow. Leon, big love. Enjoy your evening, and we'll see you later. Bye. Bye.